Good morning. My name is David Briganti, and this is my presentation in intercultural communication. I didn't really want to pick a certain subject today. I wanted to talk about a few different things that kind of stuck with me throughout this semester. The first one is the idea of uncertainty avoidance. Now, as we all learned in 1980, a Dutch management researcher named Gert Hofstede came up with a theory called the Hofstede dimensions. There are four parts to this theory, the fourth of which is the idea of uncertainty avoidance. And I think I run into some of that in my workplace. I have several employees who come from different cultures, different countries. They come from Laos, Vietnam, Korea, Canada, and I have one gentleman from Ghana. When I first took the position, they really didn't, they struggled with their communication. I'll give you an example. We have a intercom system in the plant. The idea is for employees to be able to page someone when they need help with something. Many of these employees didn't refuse to actually get on the intercom and page somebody. They would ask a coworker to do it for them. And it was simply because they didn't have the confidence to speak into the intercom. They felt like their English was broken. And so I reassured them over the last few years that their English is fine and everybody can understand them. And now they all do use the intercom system. Another example is when I would write performance reviews for them. My process is after the review is done, I would sit them in my office and I would ask them to read it, to go over it with me. And if they have any questions or anything they disagree with, they can ask me then or bring it up then. I came to the realization that a few of these guys couldn't even read the review. They couldn't read English. So I've kind of changed my process and I now read it to them. But just the whole idea of being afraid to get up and ask for help was really sad for me. The next thing that really stuck in my head was the whole gender inequality piece that we worked on. Most particularly Amy Cuddy's video, which I had seen several times. But the message I want to send right now for all of the ladies in the class, please sit at the table. I've seen this in my workplace as well. Female managers who, another example, we have a large conference room with a large table in the middle of it. And in the outlying area, we have a couple of sofas and chairs. And several of the female team leads and or managers will often come in and sit on the outside of the room rather than at the table. I would encourage you to sit at the table, let your voice be heard, speak up, be present. I guess early on in my career, I reported to two female supervisors at UPS. So I got used to females leading in the workplace at a very young age. So it's never been a problem for me. I can tell you I have a female team leader that works for me. And some of the best leaders that I've ever worked with were females. So I don't believe it's a gender issue. I think that we have to get past that. And I think it's sad that today in 2019, we're still talking about this. I was looking at the textbook and noticed that, so some of the countries with the lowest gender inequality are the Nordic countries and many European countries. They listed Switzerland, Germany, France, Austria. And then I looked at the countries with the highest gender inequality, and they seem to be many African nations: the Congo, Sierra Leone, Liberia, the Ivory Coast, Chad, Niger. And it made me think maybe some of these underdeveloped countries could grow simply by allowing women a larger voice. It was 2003 that we learned that Finland was the first European nation to have a woman hold the seat of prime minister and president simultaneously. 2 women. Great. Good for you. Good for you, Finland. The last thing I wanted to talk about was how other cultures perceive us in the U.S. and our Western culture. And I want to tell you a little story. When I visited Italy to meet my father's family, of which he'd never been over to meet them, they live in Torino, which is in the northwest corner of the country, and we were in Tuscany. We had to drive 3 hours north, and they drove 2 hours south to meet at a restaurant. When we got to the city that we were meeting, or the town we were meeting, and we couldn't find the restaurant, we got lost. So we pulled in a convenience store to ask directions. And my ex-wife, spoke very limited Italian, only what we had learned before the trip. And a gentleman overheard her, and he spoke no English. And he actually made her realize that he would drive us right to the restaurant. So she came back out, we got in our car, we followed him, and he drove several blocks, several minutes out of his way, I would assume, and pulled us right into the parking lot of the restaurant. He turned in and promptly gave us a wave and laughed, and I thought, what an outstanding thing to do. He really helped us out. So maybe the next time I'm asked for directions, maybe I'll lead the person to their destination rather than just give them the directions that we feel is adequate. Maybe it's not. So I started to think, how can we change this perception of our culture? Well, it's up to us individually. So I want to reach out to each of you to say, think about your role in this, how we're viewed, and maybe we can change this in the future. Thank you.